Good evening. My name is Ray Dwyer, and this is Dr. Joe Dispenza's Meditation and Book Discussion Group. Tonight, we're discussing Becoming Supernatural, Chapter 1, Opening the Door to the Supernatural. Let me touch on a couple items out of the introduction that I think are pertinent to start with. Over on page XVII, it says, I got very clear that I should give up my frugal efforts and convince that community of anything, and instead direct my energy to the whole other part of the population. Dr. Joe's talking about, he was giving a speech, regular routine, after he made that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? And he got burned out because he was just talking, but he had not developed any of his books. He hadn't developed any of his studies. And he just knew he was talking and not living it. And he just got very self-conscious of it. As I listened to the sweet lady in London, who wasn't a monk or a nun or an academic scholar, I knew that in telling her story to the audience, she was helping others see some part of themselves in her. Those hearing her journey might then believe that it would be possible for them to accomplish the same. In one of her talks, some lady got up and talked about her healing once she learned the principles that Dr. Joe taught. That's another reason why he tells these stories about healings in his books, to help give people confidence that they too can do it. Hopefully, reading it will help you understand that you already have all the anatomy, chemistry, and physiology you need to become supernatural, sitting latently within you, waiting to be awakened and active. Before I started doing Dr. Joe's work, I had studied different modalities, different meditations, different this and that. And because I got such a block in me, I thought that you needed to be born talented, like some people who are born talented with music or whatever, because I just couldn't get anywhere with it. And one of the things I got from studying Dr. Joe's work that first year is that very normal people are having extraordinary experiences doing this work, letting go and changing. And it started touching my heart. And I found out that is the key for me, is that all the other things I studied, nothing taught me how to heal my heart like Dr. Joe's work did. In these pages, I want to demystify what it is to have an interdimensional experience, as well as provide the science, biology, and chemistry of the organs, systems, and neurotransmitters that make this happen. That's a big goal in Dr. Joe's work, is to help you understand this isn't some kind of woo-woo mysticism where you need somebody that goes om sitting on a pillow. This is something each and every one of you can do. It's not easy. And it's really frustrating when you sit down next to somebody who makes it look easy. The funniest stories I have is that one of the first years I was teaching this, I had a really sincere lady working with me, and we were talking and studying. And I talked to her on the phone and stuff. And about 9 months into this work she was doing, she finally got her husband to sit down and read a book. And he goes, okay, this is nice. And come to a conference. He never meditated. He just wanted to know what she was doing. And so he went to his first conference. And about the second meditation, he just let go. Surrender is the first door. And he just had a mystic meditation that first time, and it changed his life. And he didn't have to work to do it. He didn't have to cry to do it. He just was okay. And away he went. And everybody's like, what in the world? Said, yeah, and he's lived a mystic life without trying. And his wife is in the meditation and she's just pouring out her heart, and her husband just acts like, well, what's wrong with this? So it's having a struggle doing this might be called typical, not normal, because I don't know what normal is. Because every now and then you meet somebody like her husband, and you just shake your head like, "What did you do?" And he'll just tell you, "I just did what Dr. Joe says." Well, doing what he says is a little bit more challenging for some than it is for others. I just wanted to throw that in you because some of you have been struggling with this work for a while. For me, it took me a full year to have my breakthrough meditation, and I was meditating multiple times a day, just with all the sincerity as I could. And so others take years. Sometimes it just takes months. I don't know. People are different. So that's the first thing I wanted to tell you about. Um, over here on this next page, it says, so we partnered with Heart Math Institute. If you haven't heard of the company called Heart Math Institute, it's one of the few companies that work with Dr. Joe and is mentioned in all his books and is just a profound aid in your meditation skill. Not woo-woo stuff, not mysticism stuff, but the skill of getting coherent in your heart and in your mind. There is nothing I've met that can help you develop that skill like Heart Math Institute. They have some pricey toys, so I'll tell you that ahead of time. But I'll also tell you that they are effective. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Other centers in your body besides the heart are also under the control of the autonomic nervous system. I call them energy centers. Each has its own frequency and its own intent and consciousness, its own glands and its own hormones, its own chemistry and its own individual little brain and its own unique mind. You can influence these centers to a function. Now, this was major big to me when I first started talking to doing Dr. Joe's work. I had heard about chakras and I had understood them to be fields of energy about the body. Dr. Joe has taken these to a whole nother level. These energy centers are not just energy centers, chakras out here in the field. And that's why Dr. Joe does not use the word chakra. Because did you hear what I just said those energy centers are? This is important that you take this literally. I call them energy centers. Each has its own frequency, its own intent or consciousness, its own glands, its own hormones, its own chemistry, its own individual little brain. These 7 energy centers that we talk about has its own brain, neural complex brains, and its own unique mind. A brain in action has a mind. A mind has a consciousness. A consciousness has a nervous system, and for the purpose of controlling the glands and the chemistry of the body about it. To me, when I started this, that was these shocking statements. What do you mean we have brains throughout our body? We do. We have little brains. They're specialized brains. They're not cortexes. Don't interpret this as him saying this. But a brain is a neural complex that creates an energy that has a consciousness, that has a memory. And the brains are there and they are real. And these memories and energy centers create the energy field that religions have called chakras for thousands of years. Coming to find out, they're actually neural plexus in your body. I thought that was an interesting thing. But it's important because as we go through this work, we'll be doing meditation called Blessing of the Energy Centers. And I want you to know you're blessing actual specialized neural plex brains in your body. Look it up. This is science. This is not woo-woo. This is not fakey pseudoscience. They really are neural plexuses in your body that operate like mini brains. Not this big memory center, but it's there. Okay. That's what I wanted to introduce you to in this book today. Now, we're going to start chapter 1. Chapter 1 starts talking about Anna, and her husband commits suicide, and she breaks down in a big way. It says the hormones of stress had overtaken her, and Anna was now in survival mode. If anybody has ever gone through something like this, then I don't need much of an explanation to tell you what kind of crash her life went into. From a scientific point of view, living in stress is living in survival. Diagnose yourself. If you're stressing out over something, you have programs in you working in your survival mode. Physiologically, there you go. The body is automatically tapping into resources it will need to deal with all the current danger. It thinks you're in life danger. When the body goes in survival mode, starting with the food you eat, it quits absorbing a lot of the nutrients. You could be eating the richest organic food available. And if you're living in survival, a lot of those nutrients aren't happening, aren't being absorbed, and are being wasted. Your body is looking for energy and protein and things that help you stress out and survive. It's not looking to heal. Second, another thing is that your immune system crashes because it doesn't want to waste energy putting out white blood cells. It wants to pump out that oxygen for your muscles. So your immune crashes, your digestive system turns off, and your brain goes in hyper focus. You quit being creative. You get very frontal lobe, and your back of the mind shuts down, and you become very narrow and overexpressive. What is stress was my question I wrote on page 3. The immune system initially dials up and then dials down the adrenals and cortex, floods the muscles, providing a rush of energy to either escape or fend off stressors. Circulation moves out of our rational forebrain and instead relays to our hindbrain so that we have less capacity to think creatively and instead rely more on instinct and instant reaction. Even though your body is not in some threat, your mind and emotions perceive your situation as a disaster, and you get all the threat symptoms. We can knock our brains and bodies out of normal physiology just by thinking about an all too familiar past trying to control an unpredictable future. You get that past running in circles, and your future becomes possessive. Your past becomes possessive, and your future becomes focused, and your present moment fogs up because you're confused about what to do. You're double minded. Emotions are the chemical consequence of past experience. You're out of control, and you're living in a chemistry based on something that happened in your past. And this is what's happening to Anna in a big way. The memory of an event can become branded neurologically in the brain, and that scene becomes frozen in time in our gray matter. It becomes such a neural network that it just is obsessing in her mind. People in her life start treating her as a person who had lost her husband, and that became her new identity. She was a professional counselor doing very well in her life. Now Her identity is this sad woman, this broken woman who lost her husband. I can tell you when you're in that excuse me. I can tell you that when you're in that struggle for your life, it's hard not to take on that identity. When I was struggling with the cancer experience that I had, I was a guy with cancer. I didn't know how to say it otherwise. And so people, oh yeah, you're the guy with cancer. Yeah, that's me. I'm the guy with cancer. That was my identity. It possessed my outside expression. I was going to the doctors and just getting all kind of treatment and all kind of crazy stuff. And it took over my self identity. my the drugs I took turned off my head. So I was no longer the guy with a good mind. The crash took away my strength, my body. I used to be a really strong man back then, and it took all that away from me. It ended my financial security. It ended everything. And I had nothing left but my identity as the guy with cancer. At that time, I had no idea how to change that. That was just my plight in life. And I was doing everything I could in my life to stand against it. But I had no education tools to help me do anything else except eat a cleaner, freer diet. Every day she was thinking and acting and feeling as if the past was still alive. You ever have something so ugly in your life that you wake up and you rehearse it every single day, thinking that you're afraid it's going to happen again today? Or you rehearse it because even though you know it won't ever happen, but it's so present, so painful that you just rehearse it day in and day out? If you've ever met a military guy who's got combat PSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD, then you'll see somebody living that. Those nightmares are ever present in a guy like that. But that's just my experience, so I can relate to that. I know people who've had car accidents and it just gave them just absolutely panic mode. Some people have been assaulted in a ways that just fried their brain. And their whole social life is just a mess now because they're struggling to get rid of the trauma of that event. 9 months later, Anna woke up paralyzed from her waist down. Within hours, she was laying in the hospital bed in a wheelchair beside her, diagnosed with neuritis inflammation of the peripheral nervous system. After several tests, the doctors could not find anything structurally as the cause of the problem, so they told Anna it must have been an autoimmune system. Stress doesn't have a point where you can say that's what's making you sick. It's a symptomatic breakdown in your body. And in this case, it presented itself, and the doctor said, well, you just got an autoimmune disease because they have no way of curing stress. Doctors don't talk about stress. Psychologists will drug you out of stress, but that's not really a cure because even though you may be drugged into passivity, the cause of that is still in your head. So as soon as you get off drugs, you go back to it. Therefore, the body has no energy left in its inner environment for growth and repair. That's what we're talking about. When your inner energy is spent because you're going all the time, there's no healing going on in your body. And your body is in a healing mode all the time. You're continuously wearing out cells and building new cells, continuously in all kinds of different levels, from your bloods to your muscles to every little tissue in your body. You're always cells are evolving down and growing new. And when you're in that kind of stress, nothing is healing. You're just slowly breaking down, getting weaker and weaker. And that's what's happening to Anna, and she is getting sicker and sicker. Then it says over in page 7, Anna was passing through her darkest night of the soul. Suddenly she understood why her husband had taken his life, because he was so miserable he'd rather be dead than face this. She wasn't sure she could go on anymore and started thinking of committing suicide herself. She thought, it can't get any worse. And then it did. Never challenge the universe and say it can't get any worse. Oh my goodness. So I suggest you find any other expression because of that, because the universe just might show you that it can. Um, if an addiction is something that you can think you can't stop, then objectively it looks as though people like Anna become addicted to the very emotions of stress that are making them sick. The rush of adrenaline and the rush of stress hormones arouse the brain and body, providing a rush of energy. I was the kind of guy who was addicted to anger. It even made sense to me. As I look back at it, I think of just the mess I made of my life again and again. But while I was in that chemical adrenaline mode, it made sense to me. Isn't that wild? Even though, as a sane person, you'd go, Ray, you're just messing your life up. Chill out. But somehow I had rationalized my anger. I had justified my chaos. And I just made a mess of my life again and again, year after year, because the pain that I carried emotionally, mentally. So on page 8, the choice to change became Anna's quest. She first decided to stop all the treatments and all the medications for her various physical illnesses. It's funny, I read these things and I see so many pieces that I went through. It had been, I was on chemicals to fight the cancer for a full year, 12 months. And during that time, I was on psychiatric chemicals to help me not overreact from the cancer chemicals. And I did that for another year and more. And those psychiatric neurotropic chemicals just turned the brain off. I hated it. I wanted my mind back. And I just did what she just did. I just quit taking everything. Cold turkey. I just woke up one day and went, enough of this. And I didn't tell anybody. Not my wife. I didn't tell anybody. I just started throwing pills down the toilet. Well, eventually, uh, I was in the keeping my appointments. So I didn't want to lose my appointments because I didn't want to lose care. Because if you quit going to the VA, they just turn you off. And so I kept going, and I was finally asked point blank, "Are you taking the pills?" And point blank, I said, "No." He said, "What do you mean you're not?" I said, "What are you doing? You've taken this." Well, I'm not taking them. And it had been weeks since I hadn't taken them since. And he says, "Well, you can't just stop." I said, "Sure I can. I just did. Just told you I did." No, there's withdrawals and everything else for some people, but for me, I just stopped and I just refused to take them. And I fought off the withdrawals. So I'm not taking any pills. Oh man, I thought the guy was going to force me to. I thought they were going to come in with white coats and stick needles in me to make me take the drugs again. That guy got crazy upset with me because I quit taking his drugs. So I understand her point of view there. It was that decision to change that gave her the strength to rent a house herself and children and move away from the negative relationship. It was as if that moment redeemed her. There's a point in life, regardless of the stress you're in, where something snaps and you go, enough. This stops right here. And you draw a line in your life and you go, as of now, things are changing. And you just say, I've had enough. And that's what happened when I quit taking all those drugs. I got angry, not in my head, in my heart, said, I am tired of being drugged out of my mind and out of my will. I need to be able to will myself well. And I can't do it on all these psychotropic drugs these doctors are giving me. So I quit taking the drugs. And I survived. I was still getting cut. The cancers were still showing up, but they were catching them while they were small, and they'd cut them out while they were small. That night, Anna filled with inspiration. If I created the life I have now, including my paralysis, my depression, my weakness, my immune system, my ulcerations, all these things, if I created it by my lifestyle, just maybe, just maybe I can heal it if I change my lifestyle. And that was my thinking also. I hadn't found Dr. Joe's work yet, but one of the things I learned is that in that first year of trying to understand, I have never been sick in my life. Somebody asked me, says, who's your doctor? I don't have a doctor. What do I need a doctor for? I'm never sick. I went from sick, never being sick, to almost dying of cancer and having doctors just, I got all these doctor names on my phone list now. It's crazy, you know, but I changed. And I said, if my stressors made me sick, maybe I can learn to de-stress and I can learn to be well again. I didn't know how. I hadn't found Dr. Joe at this point, but I had figured out on my own what I was looking for. I was looking for a way to end my mind's chronic anger and stress, my heart's chronic anger and stress. Then on the bottom of page 9, it says, Anna was now more committed to believing in a new future than believing in her same old familiar past. That's key. How bad do you want it? I've talked to people who are just and I finally break down. I say, so how bad do you want? How much do you want? What will you not give up to get well, to make these changes? What do you mean? He says, then talk to me a little bit about who, I said, okay, will you give it all up and completely change who you are to get well? Well, I don't want to quit doing that. What do you mean you're on your deathbed and you're still clinging to this goofy ego of yours? Yeah. Guys can be really hard-headed, I'm telling you, particularly vets, because their whole ID, self-identity, ego mind is how tough they are. And they'd rather be dead than give that up. A lot of them did. And that was a toughie because as a guy who thought he was the bad dog in the junkyard, that was part of my identity. I was a veteran and I was tough and I was violent to prove it. And came up to a time when I had to learn to give that up. It was like I never learned to give up anything. And I'm giving up my personal self for my survival. It took me a while to learn that. Isn't that something? Do you have some personal ID that you claim that you just can't imagine ever giving up? You just might get tested in this work. Let me see. Anna had no tangible reason to be in love with life. She was depressed, widowed, single parent, who was financially in debt, had no real job, had cancer and suffered from paralysis and ulcerations in her mucous membrane, and she was in a poor living situation with no partner or significant other and no energy to tend to children. But in the meditations, Anna learned that she could teach her body emotionally that her future would feel like ahead of the actual experience. That is a key statement. Here she is. She knows what her real life is. She was an intelligent woman. I mean, she was a professional, you know, doctorate in psychology, professional. And yet she's looking around and saying, I've got to take my mind off this and put it in my future so that I can feel what my future would feel like. The, when you do an intention, it's not about what you picture in your mind. It's about what you feel in your heart. And she had learned this by going to those early discussions by Dr. Joe. We'll go into a detailed workup on this at a later chapter. So when you're in the meditation and you're working on a future intent, don't just tune into what it is. Tune into what it would feel like to be that, being in the present moment. If I was that, how would I feel? That's an important ingredient. And she knew it, and there it is. She also knew through her understanding of epigenetics that the elevated emotions of love, joy, gratitude, inspirations, and freedom could signal new genes to make a healthy proteins affecting her body and structure. She also knew that besides just feeling her future self, she had to raise her body frequency from being sad, depressed, angry, and turning on the love energies. You see, we are really energy beings expressing through this body. And when us as an energy being lowers our frequency, then our body will be weaker and weaker, less healthy. And she learned that in the early work with Dr. Joe's progressive and intensive workshops that she had been to. And so she started learning not only how to feel her future self when she could look around and see that her life was a disaster, but to feel it. And she learned how to raise love in her in the midst of her pain and sadness. She learned how to generate love, joy, hope. That's quite an accomplishment. You start in your chair doing your morning meditations and hold on to it and see how far you can get in your day. And as you practice it, you get to do it longer and longer. Anna noticed that she was slowly starting to get better mentally, emotionally. Anna was breaking the habit of being herself. I said earlier when I gave a description of that first book, you break the habit of being yourself by changing who you are inside. Anna also learned a specific breathing technique. That breathing technique has to do with the blessing of the energy centers. We'll go into a little bit of detail. And we'll go into the detail of that as well. I don't want to get off track on that. She learned that the emotions of the past were stored in the body. Isn't that an interesting statement? The emotions of the past are stored in your body like bad memories, or they could be good memories. What emotions are you storing in your body? Do you have a peaceful, loving, joyful, happy relationship in your life so that when you wake up, you can feel yourself and your body feels loved? That's the emotion stored in your body. Or are you waking up and feeling stressed out just as you wake up because your body has stored stress memories? Same system, different memories. She learned that emotions are past, they're stored in the body. She could use this breathing technique to liberate that energy. As we go through the breathing, blessing of the energy centers, you'll practice releasing some of those stored energies a little at a time. If she can if she can instead embody the emotions of her future life by embracing those emotions before she experienced them, she could change her genetic expression. So what I was talking about is as you do this work, you'll be epigenetically changing the expression of your DNA. When I first heard this years ago, that was shocking to me that I would change the expressions of my DNA meditating. How is that possible? Well, it is a normal thing for the human expression. Just as normal for stress to shut down the body and the DNA expressing the hormones of stress, it is normal to give uplifting energy to the body and re-instruct the DNA to give proteins that energize and heal the body and make the body feel good. Epigenetics is what the magic in this work. So as you learn to change your, I do this because I've got this image in me that I've got this column of light, and so I find I'm looking at my camera and I'm waving my hand up and down, and you know because I've got this image of me with this column of light, and when that frequency of me changes, it instructs my DNA to release different hormones than they did when I was under stress, and I heal because of that. I healed not because I had a miracle or some divine intervention, which I kind of did, but that's not the science that changed me. The science that changed me is that my energy changed in that time. And so the DNA in me changed. And so when I got up off that floor, there was no place in me for cancer. And all the cancer in my body died. That's called epigenetics. She even started to feel love again. And she kept going, overcoming, overcoming, overcoming every day on her own way and becoming someone else. That's how you do it. You do the work and you start releasing all this pain. I like to use the word forgive because it feels like forgiving to me, but it's really not a good word for a lot of people. The better word is to release the things in our mind that we're holding on to. You ever feel like you got anger in you and just holding on to a pain and I want justice? These are the things that you've got to let go of. I will. I am not telling you not to seek legal justice. If somebody commits a crime against you, let them pay the price, justice wise. What I'm talking about is releasing your heart from the energies that bind you to the past. That's what she was learning to do. All this pain that she held on to, she's learning to let it go. On March 12th, Anna attended one of my 4-day progressive workshops held in upstate New York. On the third day, during the last of 4 meditations, she completely surrendered and finally let go. For the first time since she started meditating, she found herself floating in an infinite black space, aware that she was aware of on herself. She had finally broken through all the barriers and restrictions in her mind, and she had successfully went into that place called nobody, no place, no time. And she was not her personality. She was not her job. She was not her life on this planet. She was not even that name. She was an energy being of infinite potential, and she changed because of it. This is not because she was a special mystic. She was just a person who worked it till she did it. You do the work, you get the promise. The moment Anna experienced this new life in her meditation, a burst of joy and light came into her body, and she felt the relief deep, visceral level. For the first time in her life, she understood that cosmic meaning, that quantum meaning of love, and it changed her foundationally, changed the very definition of who she said she was. When you ask Anna about her past health problems, she will tell you that having those challenges was the best thing that ever happened to her. When I first started this work and I heard that, I thought that was the craziest thing in the world. You mean I'm supposed to think that my years of cancer and surgery and drugs was the best thing that happened in my life? I'm going to get to a place where I say that. I thought that was crazy. Well, now that I'm on the other side of this river of change, I can tell you that I would never have made it. I would never had peace. I would never have found happiness and love if I didn't have an event that broke me enough to get me to let go of that old ego and let a new person grow in this being. So I now understand that statement. The greatest event that ever happened in my life was when I was diagnosed with phase 4 melanoma cancer and told I had 3 to 5 years to live. That was 16 years ago. All right, that's the story of Anna. Before I go into the second part of this chapter, I thought I'd let y'all talk to me a little bit if you want to talk about the story of Anna and share any part of that story with you of your life. What we're going to talk about after this in the second part of this chapter is kind of the science and the principles and the how-tos. So let's talk about Anna. Anybody got any concepts or points you'd like to talk about Anna's story? Remember that I said this was supposed to be a discussion group? So somebody discuss with me. I like that too. Ah, Angela, thank you for raising your hand.
Of course. Yeah, of course, the whole story is amazing, and as well as yours, Ray. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us. But that one thing that kind of struck me about Anna's story is that it said, like, after a year of meditating several times a day, there really hadn't been much change. And yet she kept on going. And I thought, like in like some of my experiences, I'll be really good for a while and then I kind of fall off and I'm really, really good and then I fall off and I have to keep, revving myself back up. And I was just so impressed that a year went by, she hadn't seen any improvement and she just kept going. And I think that's inspiration, for us to just know, just keep going, keep being consistent, don't stop. And I think from what I heard you say, that's kind of what you did as well, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I had no friends, no community. I knew no one in Dr. Joe. I had two books, Breaking the Habit and You Are the Placebo. And that's all I had, and just a small collection of meditations because I was dirt broke during that time, and I hadn't gotten any benefits or anything, and we were having trouble paying our electric bill, and so that was I splurged to get those meditations, and that's all I had. And for the first 6 months, I got I got nothing. I mean, nothing. I sit here and I do it. You know that part where Dr. Joe says, don't get up till you change. I would have starved to death in the chair because I didn't change for months. I'm telling you. But I go back to what I said a moment ago. How bad do you want it? Are you Do you want it just as a fleeting whim, or do you want it so bad that even if it took you 3 and 5 years, you know what Dr. Joe is saying is real, and that it's up to you to let go of your survival. And so it's not that Dr. Joe's work isn't working, it's that you have not found it in you to let go. About 6 or 8 months, I started getting little lessons of inspiration in my head. Around the 10th month, I started actually feeling the presence of my guides and my teachers.
Mm.
Just, it was the greatest thing in the world to be meditating and have a presence connect in you. and have little words of guidance, not words, but inspirations of words of
Mhm.
guidance. But that's it. But it was just at the 12-month mark when I had my big breakthrough and I had that meditation that changed me.
Mhm.
I mean, it changed me. So once again, I've talked later on this book. It talks to somebody who didn't really have a change for 5 years. They were doing the work and they were feeling good and they were getting inspired, but no big thing for 5 years. And so I tell you, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough that you won't quit? Just flat won't quit. You have confidence that this works, that what Dr. Joe is doing is honest, verifiable, and that it's up to us to learn the skill to do it. It really is. And if you tell me you can't do it, I'll tell you you are mistaken because this is the most human work that I've ever found in my life. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. It has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with us taking control of our mind. That's it.
Mhm.
Okay, I got kind of excited on that one. Okay, Christy, I see a hand up.
I've missed you guys. I've had some major plumbing problems and I've skipped a few, but something just told me check in tonight and see what's going on, and it was right on time. You were
Good for
starting a new
you.
book. So
Yeah.
I'm good. But I this has given me all this stuff a lot of time to do some thinking and meditating and studying, and what I see, which is the common thread for all of us. Anna, what she went through, what you went through, what I've gone through, and what all of these lovely souls will go through or may already be going through, is three things. So the first thing that happens is your catalyst for change. Something in your life is a catalyst that makes you sit back and go, fuck, this is bad. I got to change this.
It stops
Right?
here.
First thing. Second thing is, how do you change something? We want to hold on. Our nature is just to hold on, hold on, hold on. But I've started thinking about it in a real fundamental, basic way is, how do you change socks? You cannot change the socks till you take the old ones off and get rid of those and clean things up. And then you put your fresh new socks on and you're ready to go. And that's the way everything is. There is no change until you remove the thing that you need to change. So
And you
that's
have
the
something to put it in its place.
right. And then while you're understanding these things and you had this catalyst and you know that you've got to do this work, as you're doing this stuff, you have this epiphany of how it all works together, and then slowly you're like, ah. But meanwhile, you just keep doing what you got to do to get to that epiphany point. So even though a lot of this stuff to a lot of people doesn't really make a lot of sense in the beginning, over time it starts to, the light bulb comes on. But the first
Yes.
thing you have to do is you got to want to do it, and then you got to figure out what it is you got to get rid of before you can put anything in its place.
Right.
So
Well, that's why breaking the habit of being yourself. There's a
right,
section in that book that talks about saying change.
exactly.
And when I first learned how to do it, I went through the process you just designed. I would just say, change, stop it, stop it. And I had to learn, I had to have something to change too. And then I started developing my future self image. And I had to, and develop my future self image, I found is a little bit more complicated than that because I found that as I was pushing my past self away because I had an ugly, angry, dark past, I was also pushing my future self away that I was trying to draw to me.
Well, I feel like it's all out there for us to get, but we're driving the vehicle to get to it. So we're steering ourselves toward it or we're steering ourselves away from it by the way that we perceive things and how
Yes.
much effort we put into it.
Yeah. And we have to heal our past so that we can have our future. Because as we push away our past, we're pushing away our future. What's the past and the future have to common? Well, your past self, your present self, and your future self is all your same self. You push one part away, you're all divided. You have to learn how to heal your past, to draw your future to you so that you can change, so you can put something in the place where you change from. All that fits together in that conversation that she just gave. That is a good synopsis of breaking the habit of being yourself.
Of
It
all
all
3
works.
books.
Yeah, it kind of works together in a big circle. That's right. Thank you.
Glad
And
to see you
Brianna.
guys again.
Okay, and Brianna, thank you for your hand up.
Uh, Thank you for letting me share this part. I resonate with me and how I hear from your reading is that I identify myself to my own story, right? Of the story of my past, and I mean as well at the same time as a human, I have the capacity to be in the present and see my past or remember part of my past and prepare for the future. So it's like it's very intense already being in the 3 times. But if I want to just hold on, right? For me to hold on the past. So then it's like I need to surrender that. I need to release, to stop rehearsing the past. Right? You were talking about rehearsing my future self or who I want to become, how or what kind of DNA do I want to vibrate this human body. So I have to stop rehearsing my past. And I think for me, that's the surrendering part. And yeah, letting go my self-concept, my identity, right? Like I identify as a mother, as a this, as a that, like just putting labels. And then when all those labels, they go away, it's like, oh, well, now I am retired. Now who I am, now I'm not a mother anymore. Who am I? An empty nester. And now I'm not a wife. Who am I? Like, who am I, right? And that building a new identity. So that's that making that space to make a new me.
Right.
And that's
I've gone through that, what you're just talking about, Ed. I'm 76, so I retired more or less by force when I got that cancer. And I had to learn to change what I say, and I still trip over it. When you're in the working field, you'd say, I'm a technician, I'm a mechanic, I'm a husband. What you're saying is, I am what I do. What you do is not what you am. I don't think that's right English, but what I am is my inner state of being. I am an electrical energy being. That is what I am. I do have cancer. I do carpentry work. I do different things and stuff like that. That's what I do. But I am an infinite energy being. And that has taken me a lot to program. And I still say it wrong, even knowing better. I catch it. But you talk to people. I like to play bridge at the community center. And they're a bunch of old guys like me. And I've got to talk like they do. If I start talking this meditation stuff, they go, "What are you talking about, Ray? What do you mean what you am? You're playing cards. Just shut up and play cards." So I got to be careful about how I talk to them.
Something I can, Ray, if I add, is that okay?
Yeah.
So I know Adriana, what she mentioned is that we go through the same process, right? When you retire. So I think the best way I did that stuff, that I am nothing, I do nothing, and that's the way I kept on repeating it. So basically, it ended up with doing nothing at all. So I don't know. That was an acceptance stage for me, though.
Well, that's more honest because you're saying what you do.
Yeah.
And that is more correct. than saying, I am nothing because I do nothing. That is
Correct.
not a correct statement. Or if I said, I am just retired, I am retired is not correct.
Yeah.
If I say I just sit around and do nothing, that's more honest. But
Yeah.
I am always a divine energy being.
Yeah.
That is what I am. I may sit around couch potato some days because I'm not motivated, but it doesn't change what I am. It changes what I do. And it's a play on words, but words have power on the inner energies. And so I try to be aware of that, my language, and it comes out of me wrong sometimes, but
And
so I'm just, yeah, I'm
like
just
you said,
suggesting be careful and say what you do, not what you am.
Got it.
and like you said, we are it's nothing mystic here. It's like an energy, right? Like
Yes.
what pumps your heart, right? That tiny bit of electricity in the heart and in the brain, right? Like what, like all the chemicals in the brain, that's energy. And like those centers of energy that he mentions is the solar plexus, the vagal nerve, like that network highways of nerve paths is nothing mystic here. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like miracles can happen, right? Expect miracles.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But this is mostly a human experience. You're absolutely correct. Thank you. Carl, one more comment, then I'll get back to the book. What's up, Carl? Thank you for being patient with your hand up.
Are you talking to Carol?
Oh,
Or-
Carol, I'm sorry. Yeah, Carol.
Anyways,
How would you tell the difference between Carl and Carol?
Carl is Carl.
No, Carol. That would be
Uh-oh.
yeah. Okay, that
Carl
makes
is-
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
sorry. Yeah, I got a college education, but I spell like a high school kid. It's terrible. Okay,
Um,
Carol.
well,
Oh,
I'm just thinking how I want to say this because years ago, even before I got into meditating and supernatural stuff or whatever you want to call it, I had hepatitis C, and this was back when hepatitis C was, they didn't really have a lot of cures for it and I don't even know where I got it. I mean, you can get it from piercing your ears, you can get it from a razor blade, shaving your legs, whatever, but has to do with when metal and blood mix and whatever gets in the system. But so uh and then I had a friend who said she had lupus, and we were spending a lot of time together in a group of people, and she kept saying, my lupus, I have my lupus, and I must have read somewhere or something told me never to claim my hepatitis, never.
yes.
And I
But
did,
it's hard not to do that though.
yeah, but I did it. I
Good
just
for
and
you.
I never really, I didn't talk about it. I didn't like dwell on it or whatever. And uh anyways, I had to take these shots for a year, and my internal specialist doctor, after the year was over, he said, you're one of the lucky ones because people don't typically get rid of this and they end up dying from it and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
nowadays they have different treatments, and I attribute it to the fact that I didn't claim it. I didn't want to own it. It's going to be gone. And I've listened to all four of Joe's. Well, I haven't listened to You're the Placebo. I do have that book, but I've read and listened to his books and done some of his meditations. And, I'm like, I think somebody said, Angela, maybe, or somebody in the group here said, you go for so long, like I'll meditate for a couple months, morning and night, and then I just drop off. Something happens and I get sidetracked, and before I know it, I'm not meditating. Then I have to start back again. But I also read a book called Atomic Habits with a group of people, and I know it's a different type of a book, but they were saying, what's your identity? And I know I'm energy and I'm supernatural and I'm Christ-like, and I have this knowledge of this system. I guess I can't say I'm 100% believing it, because my life would be so much different if I really believed it. But they say to, like, if I want to start walking every day, I have to tell myself I have to identify as a person who walks. So I guess
Yes.
maybe that's, anyways, like, I need to identify maybe as a meditator and, continue. But then you're saying that's not my identity. Or, Dr. Joe says that's not really my identity. My identity is the mystical, the supernatural, the
Yes.
energy, the forces. And so how do I, like, how do I not
How do you make that leap? First of all, I totally identify with that lady that you talked about saying her leukemia, her cancer, or her lupus.
yeah, lupus.
I did that, and I couldn't make myself not do that. It just, remember that part where she was identifying with the sickness? I was totally caught up in it, and I didn't know how to break it. It wasn't until I really had a profound meditation when I learned I really am not this body expression trying to survive. I really am something else. And from then, it was much easier to me because I had a profound reference in my mind now that tells me I am not a body with the energy being. I am an energy being expressing life in this body. And if I get control of my energy being, then my body will express itself differently. I now know that as fact in my life.
But
I
if I,
know,
oh,
yeah. And
I was,
so I created a little mantra that many of you have heard me say. And it's my I am statement. Because there, as much as I've experienced in this, I still have days when I wake up in the morning, it's like I took a pill or something in the middle of the night and I'm Mr. Grumpy again. It's like, what happened to me last night? You know what I mean? It's just, it's just I had a good week and one morning I wake up just and I'm stuck there. And and forget a productive meditation. I sit here and go, nothing. And so I get up and have coffee and get my day. And the next day I start working on it because I'm just poop hot. And so I started read this little mantra that is my primary warfare against those days. And that's when I start saying, I am. I am an electric energy being. I am a luminous electric energy being. I am an eternal luminous electric energy being. I am. And that I am is not an affirmation. It is not a projection. I am telling my body as an energy being, listen up, body. I am an eternal energy being and I am in charge. This is who I am. And I just get electric every time. It is hard to reason that you have access to an infinite potential if you feel mortal. How can a mortal animal, mortal human being, reach up and claim divinity and have access to the infinite potential? The mind doesn't accept that very well. But if you can receive and accept that you are a divinely created, infinite electrical energy being, and put that on in your future mind and feel it in your meditation so that it feels right to you, now it makes sense that you have access to the infinite potential because you are also an infinite energy being. See how
Yeah.
that's all connected?
Well, then how do I get myself to sit down and meditate, twice a day? Do I tell myself I am a meditator, or do I tell myself I'm an infinite energy being? I am this, whatever, like you said, your mantra.
I would say
I've used
closer.
I am.
Saying you're a meditator doesn't mean anything. Let me give you another example. Do you remember when you were young and in love? How much did it take somebody to talk you into thinking about your young love?
Right.
You just did it. Did you ever have a hobby that you were possessive about? Art, athletics, dance, and you just did it. Once you fall in love with what it's doing to you, you'll get past the work in the beginning. I took piano as a young guy and just did it on the piano scales, up and down, up and down, up and down. There reached a point where I could do that and hold a conversation and play scales and music. I never got good at it because I'm not one of these guys that has music in my consciousness, but I could mechanically play. It sounded like it too. But the whole point in your conversation is that I don't care if it's starting music, starting some athletic feature, work, or a new job, starting is tough. Just be real about it. Starting is tough. And for some people, starting is a few weeks. For some people, starting is months. How bad do you want it? If I didn't overcome, cancer was going to kill me. That's how bad I wanted it. I was told by doctors for almost 6 years that the cancer was going to kill me. How'd you like to go to a doctor a couple of times a year, and every time he examines you, he says, okay, there's another tumor here. Eventually this is going to kill you. You're going to have to get your affairs in order. You got all your affairs in order so that your wife will be taken care of. 6 years I was told that, or something like that. I lost track of it, but it was year after year. That's how much I wanted to be overcome this. And so it took me months, and I read the book and I saw the promise in the book. I saw it. It just made sense to me. So I wasn't going to quit. And look at what I'm doing now. I've been doing Dr. Joe's work since March of 2018. And I'm more passionate about it now than I was then because I understand it more now. And I'm like doing everything in my wisdom to help you understand some of what I understand. Because this is so real, but it's not easy. You've got to learn to let go of your survival mind and receive what's for you on the other side of the door. It is an act of courage, not faith, courage. When you learn to let go and receive what's on the other side of the door, your life will change. That's how it works. That's called the dark night of the soul. Thank you. Karina, I
Thank
saw your hand up. I got one more. I said that a little while ago, but okay. One more.
Just a short, maybe 2 cents from my experience with Dr. Joe's work. Just want to say that I'm coming from sciences, and really, when I first heard Dr. Joe, I didn't even want to listen to this weird guy with his space and kind of this voice. He freaked me out, seriously. So I didn't even want to listen to that. So things happened and people were referring to Dr. Joe, and I said, okay, I'll listen to this crazy guy again, and started listening. And so what I want to say is that we are all in our unique path. And it might be that he's not very accurate, or he sounds weird, or anything like that, that people might experience while doing this work. Well, if this work is not working for you, he never stops anybody to go and do something else. If it works slowly, that's also okay, because it's your path. If you don't believe it, that's absolutely fine, because at the beginning, we might not believe all this crazy stuff, right? To date, I can't talk about Dr. Joe with everybody. No, they will completely think I'm out of my mind. So, so I completely understand that people might be in all kinds of situations. So just accept and have self-compassion, and guide yourself into the work that works for you. And don't rush it. Don't rush it. We're listening, and we're told, okay, so what's your timeline? When set a goal, and by this time you have to achieve this goal. It doesn't work like that in this work.
Yes.
It doesn't. Like, the divine doesn't work on our schedule. So give yourself compassion, give yourself some space and some time, and the belief is going to come. Just pay attention, and maybe even keep a little book or something to say, that was weird. Was this connected to my meditation today? Just Ray says that many times. Just wonder, WONDER. Just wonder, is this connected to something like I did today in my morning meditation? Or, that's weird. 3 days ago, I set an intention of blah, 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 whatever you want. And look what a coincidence. What's this? Keep score of little things. Dr. Joe calls them the universe throws you crumbs. Just identify that these are the crumbs that the universe is throwing at you to say, yeah, you are heard. This is working now in small ways, but maybe tomorrow, or in a month, or in 3 weeks, it's going to be in a big way. Nobody knows. The divine has their own plan.
Yes. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's some important parts there.
Thank you.
Hello, Zoom. Okay, I'll listen. I keep wanting to go back in the book, but somebody else wants to talk, and talking's important. Hello,
Hi
Zoom. What's on your
guys.
mind?
I tried changing my name. This is Terry. I couldn't do it. But I did post my picture. I've been really diving into the book You Are the Placebo. Today I really studied, and I've been doing this for the last few months, actually. And I've also read the book Atomic Habits. This book I listened to it, but now it's really beautiful to be digesting it in a group with other fellow people. Thank you for having this. I just wanted to share my experience with meditation. I think I've been meditating now for over 10 years. On Mondays, I started going to a meditation class as well. I've been learning a lot of different things about meditating. One of the things that is mentioned is the choices we make. And I believe that there is a lot to do with having faith, courage to do it, and faith that it's going to be transforming you. I started with meditating only 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. Eventually, it led to it saving my life. Um, to be able to control the mind, to be able to ground yourself, to be able to find that peace within yourself through meditation where nothing exists, where you can connect with the highest of the being, is a beautiful thing. Requires a lot of patience. And I'm thankful that we had this meditation today. It was very beautiful, and to be meditating with others. I also learned in my meditation class, when we meditate with others, we're all vibrating. in the same frequency, which can help new people who are starting to meditate to strengthen them in the meditation. So for those who want to continue to strengthen that connection, I encourage, and I try to do it myself as well, to meditate, continue to meditate in silence, with guided meditations, with nature sounds, with hertz music or chants. And again, there's no one direction to get to the top of the hill. I'm an avid hiker. You can go through many routes. You can go through the route. You can just go straight up and overcome the obstacles of going over bushes and holes and rocks and climbing rocks to get to the top. But you'll get there. You just have to be determined, and you have to have faith that you're going to accomplish that. And thinking positive is another thing that in the book You Are the Placebo mentions a lot, to continue to think and visualize yourself achieving these things. Visualize yourself and continuing to submerge the brain in this material, to
Yes.
reprogram the brain. Thank you for letting me share. That was I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, and that's reality. Sometimes it takes time to put away the old self. It just does. And so just like what Terry was speaking, you just keep doing it, and over time you put away the old and you put on the new. Very good. And if you ever need anybody to tell you it's real, well, come my way, because it has changed my life in just about every which way but loose. I'm telling you. Okay, let me begin the second part of this chapter. This segment's called Getting Mystical, page 15. Because this book is about the mystical, I want to open your mind to a realm of reality that will be just as transformative as healing, but works on a deeper, different level. Because supernatural can also involve embracing greater awareness of yourself and who you are in this world and in the other worlds as well. Last couple weeks, I posted some things about awareness is the goal. That is the door that you must go through, is awareness. Getting out of your analytical mind and become conscious of the world of space and awareness. And when you do that, you open the door to a whole nother world of experiences. He goes into a conversation about his childhood where he was a child and he'd be sick, and he'd like to be sick because he would hide in the world of trance and stuff like that. So he did that even as a child. All the information I had learned inspired me to a deeper awareness about what is possible for the human being. Yet I was still curious to learn more, curious enough to move my awareness to where the pineal gland existed in my head. I casually thought, speaking to the gland, where are you anyway? Now, that's kind of an odd thing for a doctor to do, if you ask me. He's in meditation and he's learning, developing. This is new in his work, and he's developing in his consciousness, and he wants to understand the pineal gland. And so he goes, okay, where are you anyway? You ever thought to do that? Sit there doing the energy centers, and he knows it's there somewhere, but he wants to become conscious of it enough so that he can, in his mind, go, there you are. I think that's cool. And I think it's very honest of him. It's very human of him. They go, hey, I had to learn this stuff too. And so he learned where the pineal gland is. And as I rested my attention in the space the pineal gland occupies in my brain, and I was drifting into blackness, suddenly, out of nowhere, a vivid image of my pineal gland appeared in my mind. So he was in the trance state, moving into that alpha theta wave. Where are you anyway? And his consciousness tuned, and it became a clear image so that he knew, yeah, that's it right there. And I think that's a cool skill to learn. What's another use for that? Do you have a sore in your body that needs to heal? Go into trance state, alpha theta wave, and goes, okay, I got a sore on my arm. Where is that? And you tune into it and you energize it, and you can feel your body heat up around it when you get it right. The pineal gland, as I soon understood was being shown, serves as a dimensional timepiece that, when activated, we can dial in to any time. Now, I've gotten good at a lot of things in this, but I'll be honest about time is still a stretch for me. That's nothing to do with his work. That just has to do with my own mental block. It's just like, okay, I'm still struggling with this one, folks. So I'm just being honest. Okay, this one I'm still working on. This morning, vision was showing me that the pineal gland, like a cosmic antenna, had the ability to tune into information beyond the physical senses and hook us up to other realities that already exist in the external world, eternal world. While the download of information I receive seems limitless, no words exist. So he was tapping into this limitless experience of time, and the place didn't matter. Now time just, okay, this is 100 years ago, and I'll just go there and I'll experience that experience. That is cool. That past moment was still occurring in the present moment. I was experiencing while sitting on my couch in the living room. What an expression. He's enjoying a moment that he's experiencing, a past moment, as if it's in the present moment in his consciousness. This is an important tool for healing your past. This is a tool I used as I healed some of the pain of my past. I had such strong knowingness that what I was doing then and what I'm doing now were happening at the same time, and that those moments were significantly connected. In that split second, the love I felt for himself as he was younger, as my present self was drawing that young boy to the future I was living now. So him as an adult was tuned into him as the child, and he fell in love deeply with that child as he struggled to get through whatever issues the child was having at that time. That is an example of how you heal your past self. You don't start there. That is something you get to do after you get through that curtain called the dark night of the soul, after you break the habit of your survival mind, after you start realizing, I really am an eternal energy being. Then when you go into that place in your meditation, that alpha theta, then and move into that eighth center where Dr. Joe says, nobody, no place, no time, and you let go of all that stuff and you wonder and wander looking for what's about and tuning into intentions, then there's no difference in place and there's no difference in time. And you get to tune into issues in your mind. This is not even woo-woo. This really is the human experience. So many people have done this doing Dr. Joe's work. I'm sure that the first few hundred was remarkable. Now, every conference that Dr. Joe has, people are flipping out. It's who and what you already are. We are just learning. No, let me say that better. We are unlearning what society has taught us and learning and awakening to who we truly are. I was so aware or should I say, as that person, I am so aware. By aware, I mean super conscious. So he tuned into his self as that other person and become so aware of that person that he was that future self at that moment. Isn't that wild? That is available to you if you do the work. If you can surrender that survival mind and receive the worthiness that you are. I normally would have about being cold. It would have caused me to create a sense of polarity, dividing up the energy I was experiencing. If I judged it, I would lose the feeling of wholeness. He was talking about his moment where he was his future self in the garden, and he realized that if he started creating judgments and opinions of what he was experiencing, he would be tuning into his he would be tuning into his analytical mind, and he would come out of this state of connectedness to his future self. So he just rested in it and let the experience happen. That is an important key. When you find yourself in one of these experiences to begin with, it'll almost feel accidental. How did I get here? Don't try to analyze it in any way. Don't allow an opinion to form. You can stay attentive so you can remember it, but just let it wash by you with no opinions at all, so that you don't pull out and become analytical. That's key to keeping in those experiences. And it took me a few times to accept that, because I was so surprised the first few times. I like this little paragraph. Suddenly, I saw a tiny woman in glowing white garments. She was just 2 feet tall and was standing a little behind a fountain. He was seeing himself as a future self in his backyard. And then a couple ladies showed up in his seeing, and they were his spiritual teachers. Pretty cool, huh? And they had height, they had looks, they had character, they had love. They were real experience, not wispy beings, but these were real experiences for him. I really like that. Over on page 21, I wrote, I'll just read this statement. There are so many more possible me's in the realm of infinite, and there is not just one infinity, but multiple infinities, and all of this is happening in the eternal now. Now, if that's not a wild statement, I think you could just about write a book about that one statement. There are so many more possible me's in the realm of infinity, and there is not just one infinity, but multiple infinities, and all this is happening in the eternal now. I think that's beyond my pay grade to give you an intelligent conversation on that one. So just kind of put that in your pocket and go, okay, that was wild. I'll get back with you on that one. I'm over on page 22. For a long time, even though I tried and tried to reproduce the experience, nothing happened. I now realize that the expectation of the same outcome, combined with frustration of trying to force it to happen, is the worst combination of creating another mystic experience. I became lost in my own personal analysis, trying to figure out how to make it occur, and I could make it happen. How I could make it happen. He wanted to reproduce that event, and so he tried. Trying is not how it's done. Remember, the first ingredient is surrender. And the spice that goes with that is worthiness. You can't stop surrendering and try. Trying never worked to begin with. It doesn't work later. Surrendering becomes a skill set that you go into in your alpha theta mindset. You surrender this struggle, this ego survival struggle. You didn't hear me say this is bad. This is how we pay our bills. This is how we take care of ourselves. This is how we protect our family. I'm not faulting that. I'm just saying that when you sit down to meditate, it's a skill you need to learn to get these results. Okay? And the challenge is to be able to do them both. We have lower energy centers in us to protect us from stressors in this life, our body, our space, and time. It's built into us to be a protective being. But when we sit to meditate and we look around and go, for our world right now, it's safe. I can raise those energies into my heart and enlighten my heart and drive those energies into my upper being. No try, allow, surrender to it. It's always with you, but you've got to learn to allow it. But this time, instead of trying to make something happen, I just let go and said to myself, whatever. He surrendered and became allowing whatever happened. Apparently, that was the magic word. I know what that means now. I surrendered. Get out of the way, let go, my specific outcome, and simply opened up to possibilities. He just allowed it. Whatever. I just give up. Sometimes, in this case, giving up is about the best thing you can do. Really. It was my time now to be initiated and to deliver a message to change the minds and hearts of the culture. The rest of this chapter is talking about a vision he had of being a philosopher and teaching his philosophy. And the government, the religion of his day, captured him and put him on a stretching machine and tortured him near death. Religion did that a lot back then. Many different religions did it. One little part left. I'm on the last paragraph, page 26. Each of us has a myriad possible incarnations that exist in the eternal present moment. Now, that's another one of those sentences that set me back in my chair and said, what did I just read? There are many things in the first few hundred times I read these books that I had to take just with a grain of salt and go, okay, maybe I'll understand it as I go through it. Let me read it again. Each of us, not some of us, not just the talented ones, not just the ones who get some mystical experiences. Each of us has a myriad possible incarnations that exist in the eternal present moment. All waiting to be discovered. When the mystery of the self is unveiled, we can wake up to the understanding that we are not linear beings living a linear life, but instead dimensional beings living a dimensional lives. The beauty behind the infinite probabilities that await us is that the only way we can change those futures is to change ourselves in the present infinite moment. You can change who and what you are now to some degree. I don't understand the level of change that I've gone through. It's just that I have gone through some major upheavals in my life. What I do now is my normal self is unimaginable before I fell off to my tower and had cancer to knock me off my high tower. Dr. Joe says people change for one of two reasons. One, they got knocked off their tower. They got traumatized and they were forced to change their life. Two, they fell in love with a future self and they had a reason enough to change. I saw a number of tough soldiers healed from cancer. And because they didn't change their life, a few years later, they were back in the cancer ward and it killed them the second time around. I've met others who said, I'm not sick, I'm not broke, but I just love what Dr. Joe says and I think I'll study it. And they changed simply because they fell in love with this beautiful future self that they saw themselves doing in Dr. Joe's work. They didn't have to have a trauma to change. I'm one of the guys that did. I needed it. I was so stuck. But the beauty behind the infinite probabilities that await us is that the only way we can change those futures is to change ourselves in the present infinite now. I changed my present now. And now I get to talk to all you beautiful, loving souls and minds. And that ends chapter 1. I'm open to discussion. Anybody have something you'd like to say? Carol, I see your hand up.
I'm back.
Thank you.
As you were talking on this part of the chapter, I was kind of going, my mind was going back to that word courage. And I was thinking, writing that word real big in my bedroom or something, but it's, I don't know, just kind of sat with it, hit me. It's like, wow. And I was, when you were talking about the word courage earlier, when you were talking to me, responding to my questions earlier, I was like, this isn't the answer I want. But then as you were talking through the rest of this chapter, I was like, yeah, that's the answer I need. May not be the answer I wanted, because what this egoic self wants to take over and do it a different way, but it's like, no, it takes courage to get up or to go sit down and meditate. It takes courage. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. It's the courage that's going to help, the courage to do it.
Right.
So it may be off track of what you were talking about.
No, it's very, very much on track.
Part, but I don't know. It just kept coming back to me as you were talking. It's like, there it is. It's the courage.
Let me develop that a little bit, Carol, since you brought it up so well. I see it as 4 points. There's faith, there's knowledge, there's initiation, and there's mastery. Let me explain what I mean by those 4 points. Faith is acting on someone else's knowledge. I tell you something, you trust me, you don't have the knowledge, but you trust me, so you act in what I say. That's faith. Knowledge is hearing and learning and studying. For instance, you studied the book. You can have knowledge and put that book back on the shelf and never change. But knowledge is more than faith, because now the knowledge is yours. Faith is when the knowledge is somebody else's. Knowledge is when you have that knowledge. Now it's yours to decide on. Initiation, an initiate, is someone who acts on that knowledge. You could have knowledge, put it on the shelf, and never act on it. People do it all the time. I used to have lots and lots of books where I studied, but it never changed me. I didn't know how to act on it. One of the geniuses of Dr. Joe's teaching is that he is constantly telling us great knowledge, and he's constantly telling us steps to act on that knowledge. The action on the knowledge is called initiation. Don't mean you mastered it. It just means you jumped in the pool and you're trying to swim. Mastery is when your body has learned what your intellect said under knowledge. Through the practice of initiation, you've now mastered it. You can jump in the pool and swim across the pool without even thinking about it. That's mastery. Where does courage come in? Courage comes in between the step of knowledge and initiation. Because initiation says, I'm going to change my behavior and I'm going to start doing something different. That takes a little knowledge, a little courage, because we all have just 24 hours a day. For you to do something new means you've got to give up doing something old. And we do everything old because we have reasons, we have histories of why we did everything, right? I mean, there's a reason why we do all this stuff we do. As wacky as it appears from the outside, we've got a history that told us this is what we want to do. We've got new knowledge, and we want to choose to do something new. To let go of that past behavior takes a little bit of courage and possibly a little bit of believing, because you don't know for sure if it's going to work. You've got the knowledge of what to do, but you got a little bit of belief in me when I say it works, if you do it long enough to get it into you. So there is courage, but there's a little blend of spice of loving belief as well. I grant that. As you do it long enough, just like playing a musical instrument, pretty soon the body knows what you want to do and you've mastered it, and your body memory is now in line with that new behavior. Did that all fit, Carol?
Yeah, thank you. Kind of reminded me of I've driven professionally for years, but before I became a professional driver, I lived in Southern California, and I was getting on the freeway one time in this truck. I was getting on the freeway, and I guess I wasn't accelerating fast enough for this truck, the semi, and he came up, instead of passing me on the left, he went around me and passed me on the right and went on the shoulder and just zoomed off. Just barely got me with the tail of his truck. He didn't get me, but it was like close enough. It was scary enough. And then shortly after, I moved to a little town in Alaska where there's hardly any traffic. And I remember
There's
having
no ice on the roads to worry about or anything.
or hills to drive down. But anyways, there wasn't just the massive like Los Angeles traffic on those interstates and stuff. And I had to go down to Texas, and actually I was being trained to be a safety teacher for driving, and I was down in, I don't know, somewhere like Dallas or something, and I had to get on the freeways there. But after I took these safety courses, I'd learned, like, I had to have the courage to get on those busy Texas interstates and get out there and drive and use the skills that I was taught to and I mean, I still don't really like driving in big traffic, but I know how to do it. I know how to keep my space, but I had the knowledge and the courage to get out there and do that. you know, I don't know, I just kind of liken that
If you're
to,
not used to Dallas traffic, let me give you a hint. Maybe when the Dallas highway traffic is posted 75 miles an hour and everybody drives 80 miles an hour.
right. And they
It's
drive,
white knuckle. If you're not used to it, it's white knuckle scary. Now that's city highway traffic.
right.
You go out West Texas and it's posted 85 miles an hour and nobody gives you a ticket under 95 miles an hour. Those people fly down the highways in Texas.
But if I have the knowledge within me, I can, and the faith, because you know it's been done before, and I take that courage and I get out there and I use the knowledge that I've learned to be out there, then now I don't want to like sound like a fat ego, and of course, you know, you say I'm a master driver, not you know,
Right.
I don't want to act like I am, but I have become masterful at it.
Yes.
And it started with like a fear. And then when I started driving these big vehicles up in Alaska on the icy roads and lots of hills, and my instructor said, "You can do it." He had faith in me, and he just taught me how to do everything. So I had faith. Anyways, I kind of it's making a lot more sense now, you know.
Yeah.
But, and I use that
Mastery is when
analogy.
the training gets in your body and it's your body mind. You
Yeah,
just,
you know,
that's
and
when you've got mastery. You've been driving so long that you just barely think about what needs to be done and your body has mastered it. That means it's got body mind control and it knows what to do before you tell it.
exactly, and that's how I started driving. I became one with the machine.
Right.
It just
Now,
it
now take that lesson in meditation.
That's right. That's what
It's
I'm
the same system.
Can't use
You
your
act on belief to begin with
stomach's
because
active.
you're believing in what somebody else is saying. You study the book and you learn to do it. You learn the knowledge. Then you take the courage to execute the book's instructions because you got to give up something of the old to do the meditation that executes the new.
So you can't use the address.
so
There you go. And so the system is the same, whether it's learning truck driving, learning music, or learning meditation. The
right.
4 elements. You go from a belief to knowledge to practice and execution, which is initiation, until your body has mastered it. That's the skill of meditation. When I first started this work to go into space and awareness, I had to practice it because I was such an analytical, forward-minded person. It was an effort for me to go back here and create something. Even bigger effort for me to allow something to rise up in me and create. That was a strange experience, Ron. Now I sit down, put my head back, and my mind just kind of falls back because I've done it so many times. It already knows where I'm trying to go.
I have to say one more thing and then I'll
Yes.
quit talking. But I just realized, and I'm laughing. It's like here I was living in Los Angeles. I mean, that wasn't the only reason why I moved to Alaska, but I didn't want to be in the crowds. And I think I'm going to this place where I'm not going to have to drive, you know, in this rat race. And then I kind of fell into the job of professional driver, and here I am having to deal with driving where I kind of ran away from, and then the universe puts it back in my lap and says, "Oh no, you're not getting away from this. We're going to teach you something out of this."
I'd
So,
love to have a casual conversation with you sometime when we're not in the structured class. How do you become a professional driver when 6 months out of the year you got 12 feet of snow everywhere around you?
You still have to get around.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I can't stretch my mind. How do you do that? I mean, just like, golly.
I drove
Dallas, the Dallas traffic freaks out if it hails and we get a little ice on the road. You act like people are driving bumper cars, and yet it's just crazy. And yet here you are. You're in Alaska driving professional trucks in massive amount of snow and ice. It's like, can't imagine how you do that.
Yeah. So, anyways, the universe or the energy wasn't going to let me out of that one.
That sounds like a fun story. Might be fun to talk to you sometime.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk about the last part of this chapter? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all being patient, listening to each other talk. It really blesses us all that you stay with me on this. Good night, all. I love you. See you next week.